Hey, what's up YouTube? Welcome back to another Toddy Walnuts video, and I think this is like 4 days in a row that I recorded a video. This might be a new record for me, and I suspect that my subscriber count will probably start to drop now, but I was tagged again by 2 different YouTubers to do a slasher 8-question tag video. The first one was from the last Shoegazer, and the second one was from Mrs. B and me, who is Derek and his lovely wife. And I watched both of their videos and it looks like a lot of fun. So I thought, at first I wasn't going to do it, but I thought, you know, it looked fun, why not? Let's throw our hat in the ring and see what we can come up with here. I tried to use some answers that were not maybe the popular choice to kind of mix it up a little bit. So let's jump right into it here with question number 1. What is your favorite standalone slasher movie? And what they mean by that is, what is your favorite horror movie that never had a sequel? Or maybe even a remake, I'm not sure. So, but I did pick 2. I actually picked 3, but I kicked 1 out, and I'm not even going to show that one. But one of my favorite slasher movies of all time is Fulci's The New York Ripper. This is easily one of my favorites. I know a lot of people don't really care too much for this one, but going back to the VHS days, and I owned this one on every format that it ever came out except for Laserdisc. I never really got into the Laserdiscs, but this has a kind of a unique killer that quacks like a duck when he calls on the payphones and stuff like that. There are some very gory kills. I like the city setting, and this is just a all-around very great movie, very fun movie, and that is Fulci's The New York Ripper. I own this movie on a few different formats, but that is the Shameless Entertainment edition. Probably my favorite slasher of all time that never had a sequel or a remake is Sergio Martino's Torso. This movie is very, very brutal. There's, for you guys out there that like nudity, there's a lot of nudity in this movie. The killer is just insane in this movie, and it's very, very good. This is the Blue Underground edition. I have this movie a couple different times too, but this is one I really recommend. And it's a film from 1973, and New York Ripper, it was from 1982. So these are 2 movies that are my favorites that never had a sequel. Let's see, my favorite slasher look, that is number 2. I know Derek from Mrs. B and me talked briefly about the Orphan Killer, and I agree, he looks great. That is a really cool looking killer, and it's a pretty decent slasher movie. It's very brutal, very wet, very gory film, a good splatter flick. But that's not going to be my answer. I just don't want to copy somebody else's answer. So I went with George Eastman as the Grim Reaper in Anthropophagus. I always liked the way that this character looked. It's very creepy with his stringy hair, his lifeless eyes, and his insatiable hunger for flesh. And if you guys saw the movie, you know at the very end when he gets disemboweled, he starts to eat his own intestines. So I really liked that character, and I even bought the latex bust of George Eastman's character because I think it's really cool. So I'm going to go with that for my answer for number 2, my favorite slasher look. So yeah, that's that. Number 3, what was my favorite slasher kill in any movie? And for that, I'm going to go to 2009's Friday the 13th. And I'm going to call it the dock kill or the pier kill, and I'll leave a link down below if I can find it. I'm sure it's on YouTube somewhere. But it's the scene where a very tall and menacing Jason, who was played by Derek Mears in this film, who played a great Jason, by the way, He's on the shore as a swimmer who was injured is swimming back to shore to try to get on land, and she sees that he's lurking around. He's standing there waiting for her, and he sees her, and he's obviously he wants to kill her. So as she's swimming into shore, she goes under this pier, the dock on the shoreline, and she swims underneath it, and in between the slats of wood of the dock, you can see Jason coming. He's getting closer. You can hear the wood creaking, and he's getting closer and closer, and finally he plunges his machete in between the slats of the wood in the dock right into her head and picks her up out of the water so her head touches the dock as the machete comes back out of her skull and her body slunks back into the water. There are many, many different kills, but that's one that came to mind, is the 2009 Friday the 13th dock kill. I'll link that down below, as well as the 2 YouTubers who tagged me. I want you guys to go check their videos out and subscribe to them too, please. Number 4, what is my favorite slasher setting? And I'm going to kind of steal a page from Derek's answer, because I really agreed with his answer, and it's one that I kind of feel the same way that he did. And he was talking about in the outback. It doesn't have to necessarily be Australia, but in this particular case it was the outback of Australia. But anywhere there's a setting where screams or yells for help can't be heard for miles, that's always a really good horror setting, because it just adds a terrifying element to the scene and the movie. Not only are you cheering for the good guys, so to speak, to get away from the villain, you also feel for them that there's no help anywhere nearby, so that just adds a more frightening experience to a horror film. But I also do like the forest or the dark, deep woods type setting too, like where a cannibal family can live, where there's no roads or no traffic, no pedestrians nearby, such as like Texas Chainsaw Massacre or Campers in the Woods, where there's just not any help nearby. That's always also another scary setting to me. So that was my answer for number 4, my favorite slasher setting. Number 5, who is my favorite final girl? And what they mean by that is, who is the female lead who gets away in the end? I'm going to go with Sally Hardesty, played by Marilyn Burns, and this is my favorite horror movie of all time. But during the course of this movie, a very young Sally Hardesty, who was played by Marilyn Burns, goes through hell and back. All her friends and her brother, everybody gets killed. She's the lone survivor against this menacing family of cannibals. And at the very end, she has kind of a showdown with Leatherface, and he's one of the most iconic scenes ever in a horror film. He's swinging his chainsaw above his head as he's kind of grunting and dancing, and he's frustrated because he can't catch Sally. And at the very end, she causes him to kind of cut his own leg with the chainsaw, and that she's able to get away that way. And it's kind of a cheerful moment for the female lead to get away at the end. And so she's my favorite final girl. I'm sure that's going to be a popular pick, but that's definitely mine. So that's the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974. And that was my favorite final girl. Here we go now with what's my most overrated slasher movie. And I know people are going to hate me for this. And some of my good friends love this movie, and I'm looking at you, Billy Pop. I'm sorry, buddy, but I'm going to have to go with Child's Play. I don't dislike Chucky, and I don't dislike the Child's Play franchise. It's just not one of my favorites at all. And I always thought Child's Play was very, very overrated, though this is a very cool addition put out by Scream Factory. I just believe, personally, my own opinion, that Chucky and the Child's Play slasher franchise is very, very overrated. So, sorry guys. What is a underrated slasher in my opinion? I have 2 that I picked. And the first one is Dick Maas's Amsterdammed. This is a must-watch for any horror fan. I'm sure most of you guys watching my channel have already seen this. But for the casual fan of horror, give this one a watch because the killer is cool. There's some pretty good, pretty clever kills in this movie. There's a really excellent water canal chase by boat. And this film takes place in, obviously, Amsterdam in the Netherlands. Really cool setting. And I just can't recommend this enough. I'm sure most of you guys already have seen this. This is the Blue Underground edition of the film. But to me, this is very underrated. And the second one is Laid to Rest. I really like these movies. This is the unrated Extreme Edition. And part 2 is very good as well. Chrome Skull. And this is kind of a love it or hate it type movie, but I think this is underrated. I really enjoy this film, and I like the kills. I like the way that the killer looks, and it is pretty brutal. So Robert Hall directed it, and this one came out probably about 5 or even longer than that, maybe 10 years ago by now. I'm not seeing it on the back. This is actually a import. This is a Region B. This one was pretty hard to find, to get the unrated Extreme Edition on Blu-ray. So that was my answer for number 7 for underrated slashers. Number 8, what is my favorite gratuitous scene? That would be the Devil's Rejects. I'm a big fan of Captain Spaulding, played by Sid Haig. One of my favorite all-time horror icons in any film. And there's a scene in the Devil's Rejects where he's having a little fun with porn star Ginger Lynn, who also was in the movie. And it's a very funny scene because Captain Spaulding is in his clown mask, or his clown paint rather, his grease paint on his face. He's wearing his black socks, and Ginger Lynn is having a little clown ride, if you will, and it's just a very kind of an uncomfortable but funny scene at the same time, and that's probably my favorite gratuitous scene. And that's the first one that came to mind. I didn't really think too hard about that one. But I guess I'll show the other one that I was going to say was a underrated slasher. But this is Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon. This one just came out recently on Scream Factory. But I'm sure by now a lot of people have picked this up and watched it. So it's not as obscure anymore as it was, but because of Scream Factory putting it out. But this is definitely one that was not on everybody's radar, so I would recommend that if you haven't watched it, check that one out. So I'm supposed to tag somebody myself. I really don't know who would do these anymore. It's been a while since I've really done tag videos. It's been a couple of years, I think. And I'm not sure who has been tagged already or who has done these videos already, but so I'm going to leave this as an open tag, and if you want to make a video, comment down below, let me know, and I'll make sure to check yours out. But these are my picks for the slasher tag video that's going around now. And thank you to the last Shoegazer, and thank you to Mrs. B and me for tagging me. I had fun with this. Please do check the description link, or the description box below, and I'm going to link those YouTubers down below, and I encourage you guys to please go check them out. And this was my video. Thanks for watching. Take care, and I will see you next time.